Jake's pressing buttons, the sun is shining, so it must be a Podful of Saints Day, number 33 for the season, where we look back on, well, two more games of absolute God knows what. Um, City lost 1-0 at Chesham United Saturday. We won 2-1 at home to Hampton and Richmond last night, and we are going to take pleasure from those 3 points from the two games. Right, we'll start with a Chesham game. It was awful. But Chesham were on a bad run. No, two, and they looked it. They looked totally shorn of confidence or anything. And they were there for the taking. We were not the side to do that, and we never looked like it. Even though we had a better in the first half, and I'd be interested to see what you two think. I thought we had a better in the first half, but we just never looked like scoring. Just really didn't. A couple of half chances we had, but there's nothing to write home about. And it was just depressing. And sure enough, for the 13th time in 14 games, we failed to score in the first half of a game. It's an astonishing statistic and a
Great stat.
damning.
Great stat.
It's a real damnation of the way we've played this season. It's the lowest of any side in National League South. Of course, nobody wanted a record worse than that. But we had a debut, Alex Wall, 34, 35 in September. Uh, I will be totally honest here, it was not a signing, but was greeted with unbridled joy amongst supporters. See what you two think as well. Ken Child started. Why he didn't start against Wellingham City midweek, just to assess how fit he was, I still do not know. And sure enough, less than an hour into the game, he was taken off. Right, that's my very, very brief and kindly summary. Over to you. You're chuckling, Lee. Yeah, God knows why you're chuckling. You just had
I,
a tooth taken out.
I was going to say, I think Lee can start on this one.
Thank you, Jacob. Um, Disappointment rears its head in very many ways. Saturday was its current guise. Yeah, Taz, it was probably the most disjointed City performance I've seen in quite. Second half, in particular, was absolutely atrocious. First half, we looked as though we were going to be the better team. Without, I mean, it's so hard to judge, isn't it? Because Wall came in and just ran away from the ball. I mean, if that was the plan, he did it well. Um, there were flashes of positivity. I think Gio had his best game in quite a while. But then again, where has that been? Where has that Gio been for so long? But look, it wasn't a great game by any stretch. It was so poor, and you can see the fans were even losing a little bit of faith behind the goal in the second half. Boys, Jake, bring you in on this, mate, because there were some comments. I think for the first time since Nobby left, the fans, there's a bit of disgruntled comments. It was all getting a bit too much, and I think the City faithful have just had enough of that sort of performance week in and week out. Really.
Yeah, totally agree. I think that the response of the fans towards the end of the second half and at full time, I don't think should. Well, it probably will surprise some people actually, because the Saints fan have been so supportive this season. We've backed the team all the way, but I think Saints fans just had enough. That second half, there was a lack of a plan, a lack of fight. I think that's the main thing: a lack of fight, a lack of urgency, a lack of passion out there. You know, we've talked about in the last 2 months how the Saints turned thing around. We've closed the gap. It looked like this was on, and then to present that performance on Saturday, especially second half, I think was a real sucker punch. And then for some of the fans or some of the players to come over at the end and say, "Stick with us." Unfortunately, that didn't really go down well with the travelling fans because most fans just the response was, if you fight, we'll support you. We didn't see that today, so we're not going to back you at the end of this game. And unfortunately, I think that's pretty fair. And I thought Culverhouse's comments in the post match reflected that as well. And he looks like a manager who was very, very done with this squad and this team after Saturday, after they'd got themselves into that good position. I think, Dave, your summary was pretty good. First half, we were on top, weren't we? That penalty decision, it happened. And then second half, we just didn't know what to do, did we? Gio had a good shot. Zane, had a shot blocked. But apart from that, those two bright moments, everything else was just absolutely terrible, that second half.
Well, thank you both for cheering us up no end there. As you know, I'm not that bothered if City win or lose. It's nice if we win. I just want to see a good game of football, and I want to see the team giving it all. You cannot say that of our last four performances, apart from a little while at Chelmsford. It's been half baked. Those players, they should be fighting now. The supporters know the situation we're in. It's as if the players don't, or I'm not going to pick on lone players entirely. It's a case of, well, we're not here next season. What does it matter anyway? But where is the heart? Just fight, scrap, give it your all. And as I said last night, he praised the players for the performance. They've got to when they win. I think the management team have got to publicly support them. What was said in the dressing room, I don't know. But if they did praise them in there, I'd be very surprised because yesterday was dire as well. But we're going with Saturday at the moment. Oh, you want to say something, Lee?
No, 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 not at all. One thing I was going to say, like, actually, I will say something. I think some of the comments towards the fans. I mean, I felt really sorry for Zane at the end of that game because MJ was sort of coming over and he was trying to reason with some of the more vocal fans about the situation. I think what is galling now is the fact that Enfield got 2 goals in injury time to win, stretched that lead over us. But we're not, and everyone's going, "Oh, great, you know, Enfield are losing all." Well, it doesn't matter. We're not doing our job. Let's do our job first before it starts, you know, like looking at other teams around us. The fact is, I cannot fathom what the tactics were in the second half, in particular. First half, you've got Wall up front, who is religiously a target man, and you just sort of try and play intricate passes in behind the back line. But then when Sean Jeffers comes on and Ken Charles, they put up together, then you're hoofing it long. That isn't their game. That isn't their skill set. So I just don't know what the tactics were on Saturday, because whatever it was, it didn't work. Obviously, it was the worst second half performance I've seen under Culverhouse.
You mentioned the two about Zane and MJ going up to the fans, and it's a great photo. Ian Hall, I think, took it. But they look totally bemused at the reaction they're getting from the fans. And you can see from the side, the fans were saying, "Go away." We hadn't seen that once before this season, and that was a great Yarmouth when we lost to Galston in the FA Cup. Since then, the fans have been magnificent. And for the club to send out that ridiculous tweet, "Now's the time to show your support," or whatever it was during the week. No, now's the time for the damn players to stand up and show that they care for this club. And that's not what they've done the last 4 games. The supporters have been magnificent. And their loyalty should not be questioned at all by the club. That was totally out of order. And you can fully understand the frustration Saturday, telling the players to go away. Could have told it a lot stronger than that if they wanted to. One of you mentioned Gio as well, how well he's been playing as well lately. He is at last. So where's he been all this time? We've always thought he's had it. Why has he left it till the tail end of the season? It could end in disaster. Don't know where it's been. And also, it's good to see him doing a long throw. We found out he's got a long throw with 8 or 9 games to go. The long throw is such a good weapon. Now, apparently, Sam Brown's got one, and Bedford have scored 6 or 7 goals from his long throw this season. He was told by our previous manager, "If you do a long throw, I'm going to take you off." How ludicrous is that? It's just something that creates goals. But at last, we've kicked that into touch. It's good for a throw-in, isn't it? We kicked that into touch, and we are now using that to boost our attacking threat.
It's something in the armoury, isn't it? It was a real surprise.
Old school, Jacob. Old school, mate.
It was. I have to say, I think we were all shocked on Saturday when we all saw Gio lining up for a long throw. I think we thought, "What the heck has happened here? This is the end times." It was brilliant, and it's great to see. And it can work. It didn't work, although it did. I will say, first half, Chesham, it did cause some trouble, and we did hit the woodwork, of course, from a set piece. So there was, things there, but I thought Gio was actually the only one that came out Saturday with any credit at all. I thought everyone else was,
even though he got sent off. That's how bad it was.
I know, but at least he showed he cared. By telling the ref goodness knows what. But he at least showed he cared. And like you say, Dave, it's just a shame that it's taken 7-8 months for this to appear, because we know Gio's got that ability. Hasn't been there till now.
The thing is, though, Gio was getting manhandled off the ball, and like he was like the defender was almost sort of man marking him. He was getting his arms pulled back, he was being grappled, he was being tugged, he was being held, a little sort of dig into the ribs, just off the ball. And I think over the course of time, that frustration was built up and built up and built up. And yeah, I mean, I think he just sort of tried to get his own back, really. And the referee, look, we can harp on about referees and officials. They're not great in this league, are they? Let's face it. And Saturday was another dawning realization about just how inept some of these are. But that wasn't the reason why we put in such a bad performance. We have to learn to rise above all of that. And Ian mentioned it himself, you know, the dark arts. I mean, the Chesham goalkeeper. I mean, I know that we've been called clowns recently, but I tell you what, the Chesham, he is next level. Trying to claim a foul when he tripped over his own player. I mean, that's something that I've not seen before. That's just brilliant. But that's what they do. You know, they take the sting out of the game when we're trying to get back in it. Second half, they had a little bit of something, the home side. But other than that, fellas, you know, we have to capitalise when we're on top, and unfortunately, we're not doing that enough.
Gio sending off, 87 minutes. That was totally born of frustration. You could see it as he started running to the referee. He thought, "No, Rio, Gio, don't do that." So he gets a yellow card straight away. Before referees had time to put that away, and he didn't wave it a second time. He then gave Gio a straight red for something else he said, which I suspect is got to be a 3-match ban. I would have thought. Don't know how it works these days now. It was just frustration, and off he went. Referee had no choice, depending on what he said. He didn't seem to contest it; it just went off. And their goal, where did it come from? Penalty, yeah, but where did it come from originally? Long throw into the box. We nodded it straight back to the boat, to the throw, so he could chip it back in again. So the long throw is effective. It's another, as you mentioned, Joe, another thing to add to your armoury for getting the ball into the box. The dark arts. Chesham, I thought, were a disgrace. The way they kept diving down all the time. Everybody comes near them, try to block them or anything, challenge them, down they go. It was shocking. And Hampton were the same last night. It's spreading more and more in the game. We've seen it for years. It's getting worse. And clubs at our level, it's just an embarrassment. You see these players. And we'll come on to last night in a minute as well, I dare say. Right, anything anybody wants to else want to add to Saturday? One thing I will say about the pitch. Well, we go on about Clarence Park, which was better last night. It clearly had a bit of water on it. But pitches generally at the moment are really poor. They are so bobbly. Chesham's was a poor one. It was interesting watching the warm-up. Paul Blastock was just outside the box, kicking the ball in low. Michael Johnson was in goal. And he'd go down to get it, and it would take a bad bounce and suddenly have to get it like that. Or the next time, Basil would kick it in and the ball would just die. In danger of going through MJ's legs. Did we put any shots low into the box to worry their keeper? Not a cat in hell's chance. So we should have learned something just from the warm-up, and we didn't.
Well, exactly, Dave. That's why you should be a coach, even at your ripe old age.
Could you imagine? Could you imagine?
Don't talk to me about modern-day coaches. As a goal kick, everybody's got to go that side of the pitch. We'll ignore the 50 yards that side.
Yeah, it's just that. It was noticeably dusty, wasn't it? It's fair to say. Yeah, it wasn't the greatest pitch, but again, both teams have to play on it. And I think Chesham, they're used to it. They did that what they wanted to, and like you say, the time wasting was absolutely extraordinary. I mean, our fans were pretty much getting up to 30 seconds for counting how long the keeper had held onto the ball at times.
Yeah, but speaking of counting it, Jake, a day's over in half an hour.
I wish that game had been.
Yes. Can I just say, I'm in so much pain right now, but the thought of David Tavener being a football coach of any description has just chuckled me immensely.
Yeah, I think, it is just a disaster to forget, or a game to forget. Well, it was a disaster. And I will say, walking out that ground, and in the hours afterwards, I think most fans had sort of accepted the situation we were in and the reality of it. And it was certainly a dark couple of days, wasn't it, Len, from the Saints fans that we'd spoken to.
That drive home, mate, that drive home was solemn, wasn't it?
It certainly was.
It wasn't a good mental place, was it?
No.
And it's like before the game last night, that carried on from Saturday, didn't it? The mood amongst supporters. The question, as everybody was, which division are we going to? Everyone's assuming the Southern League rather than the Isthmian. Are we going to go Central? Are we going to go South? The supporters were resigned to it before the kick-off last night, which is not a great way to start.
I'll tell you what, it's even better. Now, unless they're doing this on purpose, which is just top shithousery from the club, or whether they are just literally inept. But to promote the game, they showed a clip of the fans' reaction when Weymouth scored the injury time equaliser. I mean, nothing says come down to Clarence Park like sheer, undiluted demoralisation of your home support on a video. It's brilliant. I mean, listen, it's got people sort of talking about it, not for the right way, but I mean, it's just another thing to add to the catalogue, isn't it, Tafs? Of social media. They've almost gone partridge with it, haven't they? Like they're just sort of a parody of themselves now, the social media feed. But yeah, come down to Clarence Park because the fans were in good voice last night, obviously.
Do you think they are deliberately cocking it up just to wind everybody up?
I hope so. I hope so. Yes.
Socials, also, you've got to get the food right because they don't want to upset the franchises. But for supporters, it's got to be a wind up. The match day Twitter is dreadful. During the week is dreadful. It's such a simple thing. It's like Team Sheet's coming to that in a minute.
We've covered this. But what I would say is that it's gone to a new level now. It's brilliant. I mean, it really is something else. I applaud them. I applaud them for their sheer audacity. I love it. Brilliant.
I don't suppose love it and brilliant were words you used last night, Lee, despite a 2-1 win over Hampton and our second double of the season.
I used some words. There were some expletives in there. I thought it was going to go the same old way. I mean, we didn't know what to expect, Jake, did we? We were in the pub. No. We were saying, well, where's the goals going to come from? And we're sitting next to Kevin Mudd. And he was, Woodsy, I'm going to put a bet on 3-1 City. I'm like, you're a joker, mate. No wonder you were sacked. Who's getting all of our goals? Seriously, who's getting all of our goals? When's the last time we scored 3 goals? Goodness me. But it was just one of those games, Tabs, where we didn't know which City team were going to turn up, mate.
At the end of the game, I still don't think we did. Some people try to convince me we played some decent football at times. Yeah, we did. We knocked it around a little bit, but majority of the people I spoke to after the game, it was, 3 points, very much needed, but they didn't see anything there of a side that's going to get out of trouble. It did not fill them with hope that we turned a corner. What we did, we beat a side. This is what somebody at Hampton has sent me. Good time to play Hampton, very relegation form. They played a centre-half up front. They're getting in lone players who aren't interested. They're lumping it when they have technical players. And 6 starters released, all told they won't feature again this season. That side was not representative of Hampton earlier in the season or the way they've been playing. It was a great time to play them, and that's very kind of them to help our cause.
Well, we did sort of joke to Dylan Berry, who was in goal for them, that if he threw one in, then he'll get like a mention on the pod. So, how you doing, Dylan? How you doing, buddy? Yeah, but the thing is, you've still got to beat what's put in front of you, Tabs.
Yeah, of course.
And yeah, okay. It wasn't great, but it was better than Chesham, which wasn't hard because the bar was so low. But there were still glimpses. I think the positivity there, when we looked at the team sheet, and you've got 4 strikers on the bench.
Only 10 names on the team sheet.
Well, yeah. And you knew that with Wall up front, it was just going to be heavily reliant on the midfield runners. And I think Zane almost sort of flirted with playing in that sort of false 9 for a bit of the second half. In first half, sorry. But look, if you want to see positivity and you want to see a performance of heart and endeavour, at this stage, Jake and I certainly, we want us to see results and 3 points. So however, which way they come, we'll take it.
And Jake, you're happy because we got 3 points. Did that performance give you belief? And you've got to take the quality of the opposition into account. Does it give you belief that we can still do it?
Can we still make the playoffs?
That's unlikely this year.
So we might not do that, but absolutely. No, honestly, no. I'll be honest, it doesn't. It was the result. We got that. It wasn't perfect. We did show a bit of fight. That was nice. But we also showed some of the old. I say old. It's been what we've been doing in the last couple of weeks. So, we sat back and back, didn't we, in that second half? And that goal, it wasn't coming because Hampton weren't exactly peppering us, were they? But in the couple of minutes before that, the side were there, they were pushing, and unfortunately we did what we did. The nice thing though was we didn't do it in the 95th minute, and we gave ourselves enough time to respond, and we did respond very quickly with a brilliant goal. And Dave, you talk about low knees, two low knees last night. Without them, no one else scoring. So thank goodness that they're still here. So
Good goals as well, though, boys.
yeah, two really good goals actually as well. So it wasn't the perfect performance. It was far from it, in fact, but 3 points. And I think after a lot of Saints fans had accepted that we were probably going to be going down, unfortunately, St Albans City have done the thing with giving us all a glimmer of hope again. And so there you go. And Lee's got so much hope, he's decided to turn off his camera. So there you go.
Dion Woodman, he got the first goal. Very nicely taken it was. Very well done. But his all-round game at the moment, he's not the player he was earlier in the season by a long chalk. He's just hoofing clearance. He's panicking clearance, which gives the opposition possession straight away. His passing is going to them. Normal passing is going straight to them as well. Not all the time, but he slipped below the form we saw early in the season. But hopefully that goal might give him a bit of a lift and get him back to how he was playing. Alfie Bendel, lovely finish. A couple of jinks there, here, there, and there. I'm not sure he knew totally where he was going, but he weaved his way through it and just about got it underneath Dylan Berry for the winner. Dylan Berry, 2 games you're going to have with Hampton, last night and next Saturday. Last week he had 2 games for Dulwich Hamlet. It's basically a case of trying to get a game wherever he can at the moment for the rest of the season. The reason he played for Hampton, one of their on-loan Chelsea keepers has been called up for international duty somewhere. God knows where. So anyway, Dylan's doing the rounds at the moment. And also he'll do a few games for us next season.
By all accounts, he had a couple of good performances for Dulwich. So there you go. I know 1 or 2 Saints fans. Benny G, hello. I know you're very keen to see the Saints or see Dylan back at the Saints. So maybe one day.
Yeah, maybe one day. A couple of things here. Chris, who emails every day, I think, as far as I can tell. Hi, Chris. He asked where we see the points coming from the run-in. Well, we shan't worry about that because the way we're playing at the moment, we haven't got a clue. He talks about, are we going to get out of it? Well, we touched on that. But another thing, he said, do you think we're a better team now since Culverhouse came in? Have we not improved, or have we actually got worse?
I think we were a better team for a time, and I don't think we've got worse because, it feels like it was about 5 years ago, but some of those low points under David Noble were low. You talked about Galston away. That was an absolute shambles, wasn't it? That was a disaster. There were other performances like that. We did improve. I think, unfortunately, just in the last 2 weeks, it seems like, I don't know if the pressure got to the players or what, but they just haven't stepped up to the plate, have they? I think the team is better. I think we've got better quality players in it. It's just whether they've just not stepped up for whatever reason. I don't know if that's tactical or their approach to games, or they just don't accept the situation we're in. I think that's been the reality. Because for the first time, with 5 minutes to go against Weymouth, we were outside the relegation in the live table for the first time in about 7 months. And then it's fallen out of it, hasn't it, since? So,
or even the first time since the previous week at Chippenham, Jake.
Hey.
Yeah. What about you, Lee? Are we better, the same, or whatever? Ian Culverhouse.
I think we're better prepared to take on games now. I don't think we're any worse. I don't think we can be any worse or play any worse because what was offered, in theory, was going to be great, but the players weren't there to implement that tactic under Nobby. He didn't have the players, and I think he didn't have the understanding that wasn't going to happen. He definitely had no plan B. Where I think under Culverhouse, he's probably more established a manager, and he knows that. Look, if Nobby stays, we don't get anywhere near this situation that we find ourselves in now. I think that's an absolute given. I think it's hard for Ian because I think we need to judge him properly when he's got his own squad. He's had to rely on these young loanees to come in and ask them to just run into the fire, because ultimately they are in a position they wouldn't have found themselves in. And it's always hard to amalgamate sort of loanees, cherry picked from different clubs, different tactics, different setups, to try and merge them into the team which we need to get out of trouble. I actually think we're better. I think we're better because I think there's a bit more purpose to our play. I think although we're not scoring the goals, I think the game's exciting enough for us to watch, and all right, they want to make us, they are put us into a whole world of hurt, into a very, very dark place sometimes, especially like the last month. I would say let's judge that better when Ian's got his own squad, if he gets that opportunity, because we don't know what the future holds for us, or indeed for Ian. So, what about you, Taz? I mean, you're quite vocal about squad depth and the loan players and the way we perform sometimes. You're a hard man to please anyway. We know that. Would you say we're a better unit under Ian Culverhouse than we were under Nobby?
Yeah, it's not that straightforward a question, is it?
No.
Well, it should be, and as you both alluded to there, because I still don't think the players we brought in are the players that Ian Culverhouse wanted. I do think he's had his hands tied. Bringing in all these young loan players, that is not what an experienced manager does. He uses his contacts to get in experienced players, and I don't mean strikers pushing 35. And so I don't think that is truly representative of his team out there at the moment. I think him and Paul Bastock would have something different. Whether they're going to be around next season to get the team they want, I don't know. I thought they were setting us up to make us look a lot more difficult to beat a few weeks ago, but the heart has gone out of the side in the last 4 games. I don't know why it suddenly went just like that. People might say it's back last night and have a fight in. Well, I beg to differ. I think a lot of it was to do with the poor quality of the opposition. I'd like to be proved wrong, and Hornchurch go the same way as Hampton on Saturday. I'd love it. Be perfectly happy with that. But I don't know. It's difficult to say we've improved a lot. For a while, it did look like it, but we've gone backwards, certainly. I think more with the heart than the way we play the performances, if that makes sense.
So you mentioned there about heart and the fact that the management may have had their hands tied. If we do go down, this is going to be the first relegation that the owners are going to have on their CV since they came here, right? So, and they've not experienced that sort of thing before. So it'll be really interesting. It'll be a true sort of, vision of their character, but also their heart, to see whether they are genuinely invested in getting us back up, because there are some good teams down there and it's going to take a lot more money to get us up. The thing is, you want good players, don't you? And those come at a cost. And I think that Ian is going to have Ian. Let's do a situation where Ian and Bazza stay and we go down. He's going to want a clear vision of what he wants from his squad. And that is going to cost money and it's going to cost investment. Now, we're going down. I don't think the fans are going to drop off at the rate some people are suggesting that they will. I think there's going to be a still steady stream of fans there, as long as football is good and as long as we're winning as well, because people want to see a successful team. But that said, though, City fans have still turned up this season because we are invested in what's being offered. We're trying to get behind the team for this City. The owners have got us to step up because, and I'm not saying they haven't put any money in, God forsake, no, I'm not saying that at all. But what I'm saying, I don't think it would be really interesting to see how they react to a relegation, because it's all well and good giving diabetes to people off the pitch through chicken and beer. But if their heart needs to be in the team now, because that is where the core thing is going to be, that's going to elevate us up. You've got to give Ian and Bazza the Arsenal that they need. You have to give them the squad that they want. You gave it to Nobby. You gave him that grace. All the players there were good players on paper. Those are the players that he brought in, and it didn't work. So you've got to at least give that reciprocal effort and vision to Ian and Bazza.
Somebody made a very good point last night. it is to do with bringing players in. They said it would have been worth spending some money, more than what we have done in the last few, maybe since turn of the year, to get us out of this position for what it could save us for next year if we go down and the gates drop off. It's a perfectly valid point. Oh, we might do a Dulwich, and people just keep coming down here enjoying it for a day out. Couldn't care less about the football because you see so many supporters now. They're not watching the football. They're on their phones. They're eating. They're just going down there for a day out. Are we pointing a joke?
Excuse me. Thank
Well,
you.
that's all finger pointing from Lee. So, if the gates stay the same, will the owners really be bothered which league we're in? Yeah, it doesn't look great for them. They were partially involved when we got relegated last time. They were in the background, 10, 11, and they were contributing towards the previous owner, helping him along. So they have, in a way, but not officially, been in charge when we've been relegated. So, yeah, it will be a new experience for them in that respect. And one thing I hope the club does learn if we go down is a bit of blooming humility, because it hasn't got any at the moment.
I think on footballing matters, I think Lee, you raised a good point. Ian's
Really?
talked about, hasn't he? I know it's a rarity. Ian's talked about, hasn't he, in his post-match interviews, but quite a few times how they've tried to bring in experienced players, and unfortunately the budget just hasn't been there. In this situation, should we have increased the budget potentially to try and save ourselves? Don't know. There's not much of the window left. I think it closes on the 24th for free transfers. And we've seen with Alex Wall, obviously they've brought in an experienced player there that I don't think they were necessarily planning to not long ago. And Dave, your response to his signing on the message you sent us was absolutely tremendous.
It was blunt, wasn't it?
But we have also,
Sorry, Jay. In defence of Alex Wall, last night he was probably one of our better players. He didn't do a bad job up there. He's a big lump up there to cause trouble, and he certainly did that. What I don't like is he easily goes to the ground. How anybody that big can get knocked over by a gust of wind, I don't know. I don't like to see it because it's killing the game. It stops the game from flowing. We've seen Hampton were doing it time after time last night. Chesham was doing it, as we mentioned already, and it's just horrible. That's not the idea. Is that why you get involved in football? Just to try and win free kicks? Why not try and win it with ability? I don't know.
As an advocate of the big lump union, I'm going to suggest that. To be fair, he's trying to dark arts is what Ian alluded to after the Chesham game.
Yeah, on skill, not dark arts,
mate. Absolutely. Listen, I'm with you. We have been raised on some of the most skillful players ever to grace the non-league game, in my opinion, at Clarence Park. But the situation is desperate, and I think if he can win a free kick or two, look, it's not what you want your players to do. But if everyone else does it, mate, then we're being left behind by sort of being too honest. I agree. There were a couple of people behind us on last night who were absolutely hammering him. I don't think it was great, but I think he served the purpose to the tactics that were laid to the team, and they obviously changed once Jeffers came on. But look, it is what it is. When we saw us sign Wall, we were like, right, we know how this is going to go, because the thing is, everyone else is injured. Doush has gone back. Smith isn't fit. Jeffers has gone AWOL. Ken Charles has promised so much but delivered so little. Ultimately, we need a different tact now, don't we? And all right, if he doesn't score us any goals, but helps sort of contribute towards the team, it's not a bad thing. But is he the answer? No, of course it's not.
Well, it's a strange signing. He had 24 games for Hampton this season, league games that is, forget the cup ties. Didn't play a full 90 minutes in any of them. I think he only started in 5. So last night was the first time he's played a full 90 minutes in the league this season. It's just a strange signing Anyway, there you go.
Hampton fans were also questioning, I think, how he's managed to suddenly finish 90 minutes. So I don't know if there's something else going on at Hampton, but I say it's a strange signing, but I think it's a signing of there's not much else we can fit budget-wise, unfortunately. And, as I said, increasing the budget, but also some of the figures, Lee, we've heard rumoured about some of the other players we were trying to get in. They are big figures every week in terms of money you have to spend. So you can kind of understand to that extent, but there's always that space. And to be honest, I don't think the signing would have happened if Aidan Doush hadn't, unfortunately, had his season finished.
Yeah.
And also, Alex Wall, 3 goals in 24 games with Hampton. Obviously, that's getting godlike status with us this season.
Yeah.
Right, there's some changes going on at Clarence Park. Tony Gauthier, who's manager of the under-23s, has left that position to become general manager at St Albans City. No doubt the club will explain fully what that role is in the fullness of time. They haven't done so far, despite them having started the position, so I don't understand that. I was sent this just before we came on from National League South banter page. Now, I don't do
Oh, goodness me.
message boards because people use false names, so any idiot can go in there under a false name, write whatever they like, and never going to come back, so I don't bother them. But this one, Paul Barnes has written it, and his question about director of football, the position. I've never agreed with it at the top level of games, certainly not in non-league, and this is the way he's gone here. He said the reason I asked when he said do clubs need it, and there are several examples. Ian Anderson was doing a great job at St Albans City without a director of football. Dean Austin was then installed above him as director of football. From that sort of moment, the St Albans been in decline. They then replaced him with Harry Wheeler with no real experience. If it hasn't worked for Noble, it hasn't worked for Culverhouse, and they look likely to get relegated despite a much-needed win last night. And he cites three other clubs, maybe, certain two, at our level. And he said since they brought in a director of football, they've gone downhill. The club hasn't gone onwards. And it's a position I've never understood at any level of game. Don't agree with it non-league. What about you two? Got any thoughts on it?
Okay, let's tread very, very carefully here, fellas. I agree with you in that at this level, but my major issue is that you've got someone coming in and telling an experienced, proven non-league manager like Ian Allinson what to do, and then you've got someone who is so heavily inexperienced in charge of the scouting network, and then telling Ian Culverhouse what to do. I think that's where it doesn't sit quite right. If it was the other way round, it would make a lot more sense. You've got Culverhouse and or Bastock being a director of football, telling a young, inexperienced manager, perhaps the sort of players, or whatever. I can't see, when Nobby left, I could not see the reason why Harry Wheeler didn't escape that cull, if you like. Obviously, you know, there's a whole scouting network that they all work together in unison. And to be fair, they've provided us some good players. But I think it's really naive to think that any good is going to come with the fact that, especially at this level, with someone so experienced like Harry, and he's a nice fella, you know, that's the thing. He's an excellent coach. But he's had his day in the sun. And I think for him to come in and start sort of driving the narrative forward about what sort of players are going to be best for this club, yeah, it's blinkered. Especially when you've got such a highly established manager like Ian Culverhouse at the helm. Does it work? I mean, there must be cases where it's worked. Otherwise, people wouldn't sort of keep alluding to it, would they? And keep installing these positions. So I guess there's two sides to every story, but the two stories that we've been subject to just have not worked at all. You know, Dean Austin fell out with Ian. He's told us that himself when he was a guest on the podcast. They didn't get on, but yet there was still a reluctance from the owners to address that. You know, it's really hard to gauge, isn't it? I don't see the value in it unless there's an experienced manager at the level who's been there, done that, advising someone less so. The other way around, I just don't get it, boys.
Jake?
Yeah, I think what you said is totally fair, both of you. I think, like you say, we probably won't hear about those examples where it does work, do we? But in our personal experience at St Albans City Football Club, it just isn't something that maybe is working at the minute. And there is other examples. And like you say, Lee, when you've got Ian Allinson and then Ian Culverhouses, both of them, both experienced managers, I trust them a lot more out in the transfer market, bringing players in, than I would do anyone else, because they know exactly what the team need. You can have your scouting network, that's great. But at the end of the day, I think it's got to be the manager making the deals, signing the players, because they're the one that's going to fall on the sword if it all goes wrong. David Noble eventually fell on his sword. We don't know how many of those players were his players per se. And if Ian Culverhouse, whatever happens this season, he's tried to bring in players, but he's obviously not been able to play in the players that he's necessarily fully wanted. So, it's that imbalance there, isn't it? So I think I agree with both of what you said.
Right, that's you two, band. Right, okay.
Again?
Again. Right, anything else to add?
No.
As a comment underneath the pod from last week about the under-23s, I'm not going to comment on it because I want to, but if you don't put your proper name on it, no, I'm not going to.
What was the comment?
No, don't start, Lee.
Well, I don't know. I haven't
God.
seen it.
Well, it was saying we were very unfair on the team for the 2 County Cup games, really, which is basically the under-23 side, particularly the second one. We're very unfair of them, and he said it's a very good side. And if we were doing well, which is not, putting the hypothetical point doesn't help either, then Ian Culverhouse would include 5 of these players in his squad, no problems. And he said I could name 5, and then promptly didn't. I don't know. I don't know where he's coming from on this one, because this lot, they're not even in the top half of their own league. How he suddenly thinks they're going to do well in National League South is pie in the sky. I don't mind people disagreeing with us, but substantiate it a bit, and I don't think he did, unfortunately.
Is it someone's dad?
Well, that's it. It could be his dad. It could be somebody at the club just having a go at us because they like to do that. Who knows?
All right. Well, okay.
There's a better way of putting it, I thought.
Yes. I mean, articulation isn't really key when it sort of comes to what the club puts out, certainly. What I would say is this. They weren't great on the night, and I don't think we said that they were rubbish players, full stop. I thought they were poor on the night, and I said I don't think the pitch helped. And these aren't under 18s; these are under 23 players, and a lot of them have been on the fringes of the first team. And I said to this, and I spoke to someone who was involved in this situation. Ian got them all back in and had a look at them all, and there's a reason why they're not why they're not being sort of touted around or flirting with the first team. It's not to say that they won't be, but on that night they were poor. The fundamental basics, and it wasn't as though they were playing world beaters, And forgive me, Welling are a good side within themselves, But I just wanted more, And it wasn't even like we were anywhere close to winning that game either. You know what I mean? I'm not saying they're bad players. Of course they're not. You don't get to play under 23 for St Albans City if you're a bad player. But on the night, collectively, they were poor. And the scoreline reflects that. The performance reflects that. But yeah, I mean, I wasn't making a comparison between that team and the first team because there is no comparison there. But I think there is a reason. If the players were good enough, they would have been fast-tracked into the first team fringes anyway. So, I mean, that's just a fact. Ian Culverhouse and Paul Bassett in particular, they're real advocates of promoting from within youth. They've done it religiously throughout their careers. Paul Bastock has often said that some of the younger players, when he was with us, he loved the fact that the younger players, local players, had that heart and that desire, and he really, really thrives on that. So look, if they're good enough, they'll get into the frame. But ultimately, just on that one showing last week, that wasn't the case.
Well, our comments were based on that game and a number of them who played the previous week against Potters Bar Town. Yeah. And from what we saw, none of them were good enough to contest a place in that first team squad. And Welling, following Saturday, went down 2-0 at Stotfold, lost there. And if you read Welling's report on the match against us, they were shorn of 5 or 6 first-team regulars. That was nowhere near their strongest lineup that thrashed our under-23s. So I think the comments were misguided.
The beauty about this is that people should disagree with us if they don't agree.
Of course.
Because it is a fan podcast. So, anything that we say on here and you don't agree with, get in touch. But as Tav says, leave your proper names. All of our names are on here. You can see, and you know who we are. You can come and approach us at any given time. It's a fan podcast for fans. We know the players watch it and some of the, the hierarchy. But look, it's a fan podcast. We've got an opinion. You've got yours. We will quite happily have a beer with you to discuss otherwise. If you do want to get in touch, my friend Jacob is going to give you all the information you need.
Podful of Saints on Twitter. We're not finished yet, though. We haven't even previewed the game.
No, let's not do that. No. I was in a good mood by then.
No, I mean, I'll be honest. We've just spent 5 minutes discussing the county cups. I mean, lads, come on, we're better than this.
We're really not.
We're not.
We're really not. We found our plateau, my friend.
Come on, Dave, move us on to Hornchurch quickly.
Well, finishing with Hampton, the team sheet, which is only had 10 city names on it. You've got a list there, and you go down there, and there's a gap there. 10 city names on it. You go to Hampton's side, and there's 5 spelling mistakes. It's criminal. It just ties in with the rest of our social media stuff at the moment, unfortunately. Hornchurch, yes. Thanks, Jake. I've looked hard into their work. I haven't really had time. Are they 3 games without a win, I think, off the top of my head? Yes, they are. And they did us 1-0 down there. Our first half performance down there was one of the many shockers this season, as we did our best not to score in the first half, like we do every week. Second half, we played well down there. We just couldn't turn it around. Darryl McMahon's manager down there, isn't he now? But they say they're, again, the sort of side you want to be playing this time of the season, like Chesham, like Chippenham, and like so many others recently, with nothing to play for, and where we should be busting a gut to get something out of it. They are the sort of side you want to be playing. Enfield are busting the gut at the moment and doing it. It's our turn on Saturday, isn't it?
It is indeed. You've got 2 coming up now, don't you? Where you have to. There's no question. You have to bust a gut. Hornchurch.
Said that last week.
I know. We did.
Actually,
that didn't go well.
And week before that as well.
Didn't work well, did it? Yeah. Hornchurch. They're a decent team. They've got a bit of money. They've spent well. Daryl McMahon, decent manager. They're safe. They lost 3-2 to Slough, didn't they? So, not great run results recently. And I think the problem for us is filling that Gio Rasulo gap, isn't it? In the team this coming Saturday. And what do we do in terms of the forward area as well? I will say Aidan Dauch, we've not really mentioned him much. He's gone now for the rest of the season. And I will say he will be a massive miss. I thought, we talk about low knees, but I thought he was good quality. And he always bust a gut and looked like he cared a lot and gave a lot of fight. And I think that's one of the reasons he got injured at Chelsea. He was absolutely sprinting for that ball, got ball back and just did himself one. So he'll be missed whatever happens this season. And so it's just those forward areas, because we're not scoring enough goals, are we, at the minute? It's been a problem all season. We need to start hitting the back of the net. So what do we do with the team on Saturday?
Well, that's interesting about Gio Rasulo. You're dead right there. Rubens Wyatt struggled to justify a place in the side for him at the moment. We know what he could do, that goal against Averley, but he's so wasteful the rest of the time, unfortunately, at the moment. So Ian's got big problems with that team for Saturday, really. If you look at what's on the bench Tuesday, you're not going to draft many of those in to strengthen the midfield. They've got 3 or 4 forwards on the bench. Alfie Payne seems to have suddenly disappeared off the scene. Any news?
No. So I suppose this question is, do we go up top on 2 up tops on Saturday? Do we see Sean Jeffers coming potentially alongside Paul
I would have played
Ollie
him last
Davis?
night.
Yes,
you're right, Jake. I would have played Sean last night against a side that we knew was disorganised. I would have started with him, but rightly or wrongly. Anyway, sorry, Jake.
So do we maybe see Ollie Davis come in potentially, because he can sort of do a job between midfield and attack? So I don't know. Big question. So that team sheet on Saturday will be very interesting to see, just as it was on Tuesday night. Lee, stop laughing.
Well, it's easier if you only have 10 names. You can fill it a lot more easily.
Right. You lot, honestly.
Oh, my days.
Sweet. Lee, go.
I mean, this is probably... The thing is, though, Sean came on and I think Sean needs to start. Him coming off the bench really doesn't do him any favours at all. He's got to grow into a game. It does take him a while. Bless him. I'm with Jake. I want to see Davis back into the fray, because we've not seen a great deal of him from the off. It's always been Dauch and/or another. I think Sean, I don't know what's going on there, but I don't think he's the answer now. Ken Charles definitely isn't the answer. The fact that he got hauled off after 56 minutes shows you just exactly his impact into the side at the minute. Davis, yes, and then maybe a flirting with Wall afterwards. But Smith, maybe you try and get 15 minutes out of him. Predictions, Tabs. Honestly, I mean, City do this, don't they? They just, plummet us to the depths of despair, and then a little, twinkle of hope. I'm either going to go 2-0 Saints and then keep our sort of, uprise going, or I just want to lose 2-0 and get it over and done with, so we can just concentrate on getting onto the beach.
You're only allowed one lead. Jake sits on the fence. You're not allowed to as well.
Well, take your pick then, mate. I don't mind.
Well, you'll have to go for a 2-0 defeat, because I've gone for a 2-0 win.
What?
Yeah. I'd stick with this side. 7th game running, I was predicting we won't lose. That's gone well up until now. I feel Hornchurch, again, the ideal sort of side for us to be playing, but the players have got to turn up and then not say to the fans at the end of the game after a load of tripe, stick with us. No, you show us, you give us something to stick with. That'd be handy.
Yeah.
Jake?
Well, I'm
Say it.
torn. I'm torn.
Say it.
I want to say 1-1, but I'm going to go 1-0 Saints for no real reason.
Yay!
Just
Reason.
if we win, keeps the season alive, doesn't it?
They're talking of do as everybody else does, Lee. You remember back in, was it 96 or 95, whenever it was, the playoffs, when, not the playoffs, the throw-in, kicking.
Yep.
Kicking it was called. Instead of a throw-in, you're allowed to kick the ball in, and you couldn't be offside from it, so it just encouraged big boot. And we, of course, under Alan Cochrane, were the only team not to do it, and which was a team that got all the publicity. We didn't do a single one whole season, and we got a big article in the Daily Telegraph. We got other mentions here and there. So it does stand out. If you play properly, you do get noticed. So you don't have to do a dark
Trendsetters, mate. Trendsetters.
Trendsetters. We'd be better off if we had a set of train setters, I think. Anyway.
I'm unclear. Do we now do kick-ins so we get the attention? I don't know what we've gathered from this bit.
What? She'll do it anyway, regardless.
Well, now Gio's not on long throws because he's suspended. So,
yeah, but to be fair, it was a shame because we had Lee Chappell and then Tom Bender, who were long throw specialists.
Yeah,
they could probably launch them throw-ins further than a lot of the other times they kick them. So
yeah, that's true.
I mean, well, that tactic has gone out of the window now that Gio doesn't sort of fancy it on. Isn't available on Saturday. So who knows, boys? We might have to, as Tav said, start playing some football on the ground. Would be nice as well, too.
Talking of Gio, sorry, Dave. I know you mentioned his suspension. It might only be 2 games. I'm doing some research, but not totally sure. So we'll see in a couple of weeks if he reappears.
So not clear research.
You'd expect the club to announce it, wouldn't you? Say, Dudar's not available so many games. But Paul White used to have a long throw as well. There you go.
There you go.
Cheers, Dave. Anything else, Dave, on your checklist?
No, I do.
I think so, yeah. Lee, anything else?
No, thank you.
No, goodness me. Well, Podful of Saints on Twitter, email below, get in contact. You see, if you get in contact, Dave really enjoys it, as you can tell. Thank you all for watching and listening, and we will speak to you again next week. Come on, you Saints. Bye-bye, everyone.